We're into the month of May, and we have made it to another Friday. What's up, Florida Panthers Daily? I'm Andrew Sheridan, back here with you in May. That just sounds weird, feels weird to say. I mean, the Panthers are close to an NHL draft lottery instead of playing in the NHL playoffs. It doesn't really feel like we're already in May, because it feels like this is when we should really start be paying attention to the Florida Panthers. But not this year. But we still cover you every single day right here on Florida Panthers Daily, part of the fan arts community. We go 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, like we are right here on a Friday, still talking Florida Panthers hockey, because there is a lot to get into, especially coming up next week with the draft lottery. You know we will have that coverage for you all week long right here on Florida Panthers Daily. If it's your first time tuning in here to this channel, please, some comments down below, or subscribe if you are on YouTube. That does a lot for us. We can't keep this up and running without you guys. If you're on Spotify, Apple Music, a 5-star review. If you're new here, we've been doing this day in Florida Panther history. We'll get to that in just a second here on this Friday episode. But we're trying to keep it fun, remember some of the good memories from the last few years. But here in the coming weeks, we're going to have to start getting a little more into the draft. So if you're into that, this is your spot for everything Florida Panthers every single day, Monday through Friday. My social medias are AJ Sheridan Radio. We'll keep you up to date on those as well, especially on Twitter/X. But the Panthers have only played once on May 1st in franchise history, and that came in 2021, but it wasn't a playoff game. How about that? Not a playoff game for the Florida Panthers because of the COVID year in 2021. It was against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Panthers were able to win that game 5-4. You want to know who the big player in that game was? Anthony Duclair. How about that name? That's a name that I kind of forgot about on the Florida Panthers. He scored in the first period. He scored again in the third period, and then had an assist in there along the way. He's a guy that we look back on and kind of underappreciated at the time, but he was there to kind of start the winning for the Florida Panthers. Your speed guy. He was getting us up and down the ice. He was there when it was a lot of fun. You remember, if you were a Florida Panthers fan watching that 2021 season, they were a lot of fun to watch. And then in this COVID year, played the Blackhawks 8 times this year. We were 6-2 against the Chicago Blackhawks, including this win on May 1st in 2021. Because who else wouldn't get on the score sheet if his name isn't Alexander Barkov? He also picked up a goal in the second period, but this was one of those where it looked like the Blackhawks were going to do what the Panthers had been doing to teams at that time, and that was come back. Panthers gave up 2 late goals, and it kind of felt like, oh boy, how's this one going to play out? But the Panthers were able to hang on, and when I say fun and when I say fast, because Anthony Duclair is kind of underappreciated, that's because we had 42 shots in this game. And that is kind of this era of Florida Panthers hockey. If you remember Anthony Duclair, you remember him for the speed and the passion that he played with. And then, of course, you had Sasha Barkov. 8 penalty minutes for the Florida Panthers in this one. They couldn't stay out of the box, but this moved the Florida Panthers to 34-14-5 on the year. And we talked about how this past season, the Panthers struggled on the road. They were 17-9-2 after this win 5 years ago today on May 1st. What a weird time. 5 years ago today was 2021. Feels like COVID was yesterday, but it was 6 years ago. The Panthers have 3 Eastern Conference Finals since then. Panthers have 2 Stanley Cups since then. If I would have told you that 5 years ago today when the Panthers beat the Blackhawks 5-4 on May 1st, 2021, you would have thought I'm crazy. The Florida Panthers winning 2 Stanley Cups? That could never happen, can it? Well, it has, and it will continue moving on to next year. I'm confident in this team's ability next year, and I think a lot of it has to do with what we will see in between the pipes, and we will get there right now, because that is the big looming question for the Florida Panthers this season. What are they going to do with goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky? Matthew Tkachuk, of course, said he will wine and dine Sergei Bobrovsky to keep him here. He's been the backbone, is pretty much what Matthew Tkachuk said. He said when the season ended, the only guy I'll be recruiting, and I hope I don't have to recruit him. He said, we cannot lose him. He's our guy. He's going to get us back to where we want to be. He's the most important piece of our team. Think of that. Matthew Tkachuk saying Sergei Bobrovsky, the most important piece of our team. The past couple of years without him, what he has done, or the last couple of years with what he has done, it's the character, the work ethic, the drive. We've talked about that here on Florida Panthers Daily. How winning culture comes from within. It comes from your leader going out of his way to say that about your goaltender. His work ethic. That is what we care about. His character, his drive. He sets the tone on and off the ice. I don't care what age he is. He's the backbone of this team. If we're going to get back there, we're going to need him. Alexander Barkov also echoed some words similar to this. He said he's a loved teammate. Everyone loves him. He loves to play in front of him. We love to battle for him. It's that culture with the Florida Panthers that I think will bring Sergei Bobrovsky back and kind of answer some of those question marks going into the season. If you can get Sergei Bobrovsky back on a cheap deal, and if you missed our episode a few days ago, we broke down the salary cap a little bit when we related to maybe Brady Tkachuk and all the rumors. You hear he says it got distracting. It's getting distracting, all the trade rumors. We broke down the salary cap a few days ago, and I think a lot of that, maybe those trade pieces, we'll see how the lottery plays out next week, depends on what price you can get Sergei Bobrovsky at. If you can go get him at a team-friendly deal, not too long-term, maybe a 2-year short-term deal, if I had to guess, if you want to go make another splash, you're going to have to keep him around that 5 range, that 4 range per year, that is. That's just kind of the way it seems to go. But if you look back at this culture, you have Matthew Tkachuk saying he's the backbone, his work ethic. He's the leader of this team. We love to play in front of him, Sasha Barkov said. The captain said about this goalie. Is he willing to reciprocate that a little bit and take a little less money? I trust Bill Zito, whatever he does. If he wants to go out and make a splash and use up the cap money that the Panthers have going into this year and go get a big-time goaltender, will Sergei Bobrovsky sit behind him? Does Sergei want another ring? Does he want to go for the chase? Does he want to split time? Those are all questions that need to be answered here upcoming this offseason. I think after hearing the way the players talked about him, Bill Zito said he's met with them, and I think you hear them say those words. It's hard for me to picture as we sit here on the first day in the month of May, the day before the Kentucky Derby, that I could see Sergei Bobrovsky in another uniform next year. I just can't see it happening. I think this team really wants the chance to run it back next year. If you're a Miami Heat fan, you're probably covering your ears right now. Don't say run it back, but this team is different because they're coming off 2 Stanley Cups the last 2 seasons, 3 Eastern Conference championships. We can mention that as much as we want, and we will here on Florida Panthers Daily, Monday through Friday, because well, we're still reigning back-to-back champs. Still, Lord Stanley is lifted up again. But I think this team wants Sergei in between the pipes when they make a run for that 3rd cup in 4 years and that 4th Eastern Conference in 5 years. How crazy does that sound? We just did May 1st, 2021. The Panthers were squeaking out a win against the Blackhawks. Now we're talking about running it back with Sergei Bobrovsky to try and win a 3rd Lord Stanley. Speaking of the Stanley Cup, the playoffs have been nothing short of entertaining. Last night, I am recording this as the puck is dropping between the Stars and the Wild. Minnesota looked to close that one out on their home ice. We'll break that series down on Monday. And then the Ducks also looked to put away their game on home ice. But if you remember my best bet yesterday, it was the Edmonton Oilers. Or I guess that was 2 days ago. No, my best bet yesterday was the Oilers. We will see. By the time this is posted, we will know if that hit. The Canadians 3-2 over the Lightning the other night, and then again the Flyers capped off this series with an electric overtime goal against the Penguins. How about that game? 0-0 going into overtime. That's playoff hockey, baby. The amount of saves, what was it, 45 saves? I think it was 42 saves. And then the Golden Knights getting a 3-2 lead in double overtime. Did you stay up for that one on Wednesday night? I didn't. Can't say I was watching double overtime of a Western Conference game just because I had to be up for work in the morning. But there are 3 games in store ahead for us tonight. 2 in the Eastern Conference, 1 out on the West Coast. The Tampa Bay Lightning look to stay alive on the road. That is going to be a game tonight. The get-in price in Montreal tonight, $400 to get into the arena. It means a little bit more north of the border, especially when you're trying to take down a team from the state of Florida. If the Lightning lose tonight, Florida no longer runs the NHL, at least not this year. The Buffalo Sabres looking to close out the Bruins on the road. I think that might be where my best bet is going. I'm not telling you which way. I'll get there in a second. And then the Golden Knights and the Utah Mammoth. Vegas looking to close it out on the road. So Montreal looking to close it out at home. The other two teams, the Sabres and the Knights, looking to close it out on the road. We'll see how those teams respond. I always say losing in a multiple overtime game in the NHL playoffs is the hardest thing to come back from when you've expended that much effort into one game and then your goaltender is beat once, you make one bad play, you lose. It is hard to bounce back from that. So speaking of bouncing back, I don't know how the Oilers did yesterday, so I'm going to assume I won, and I'm going to look to stay hot. And I'm going to say that the Boston Bruins extend that series and get us back to Buffalo. I want to see the barn in Buffalo if we get a Game 7. I think that is why it is my best bet of the day here on Florida Panthers Daily. I'm AJ Sheridan. Social medias are AJ Sheridan Radio. If it's your first time, comment, subscribe down below here on the YouTube. It does a lot for us. 5-star reviews on Apple Music and Spotify. And until tomorrow, Florida Panthers Daily, or until Monday, we've made it to the weekend. Let's go, Cats.